The conference chamber on Centrum Prime was built to hold thousands. Today, every seat was filled. Representatives from 200 different species sat in their designated sections, their forms as varied as the stars themselves. Some breathed oxygen, others methane. Some stood on legs, others floated in containment fields. But they all shared one thing in common right now. They were all afraid. High Arbiter Velthar stood at the center podium, his scaled hands gripping the ancient stone surface. He was old even by Zentari standards. He had lived for 300 cycles, and he remembered things that most of the younger delegates did not. He remembered humanity. The holographic display above the chamber flickered to life. It showed a section of space near the edge of the galaxy. For 200 years, that area had been marked in red on every star chart. The Sol Quarantine Zone. No ship that entered ever returned. No signal ever came out. The humans had sealed themselves away from the rest of the galaxy, and everyone had been happy to let them stay gone until today. The display zoomed in, showing sensor readings from 3 different monitoring stations. All 3 showed the same thing. A massive energy spike coming from inside the quarantine zone. Something was moving. Something big. Then the barrier broke. The energy field that had surrounded the Sol system for 2 centuries simply dissolved. And through it came a single ship. The sensors struggled to process what they were seeing. The vessel was enormous, larger than anything in the current galactic fleet. Its hull was dark, absorbing light rather than reflecting it. The design was unlike anything the galaxy had seen before. The ship bore markings in the old human language. English, they had called it. The translation programs worked overtime to decode the name painted across its side, Terran Vessel Defiant. The chamber erupted in chaos. Delegates shouted over each other in a dozen different languages. The younger ones demanded answers. The older ones simply stared at the display, their faces showing the weight of old memories. Velthar raised his hand and slowly, the chamber quieted. His voice when he spoke was heavy with something that might have been regret. "We should have left them alone," he said. A young shrill delegate named Keswick stood up. She had only been born 50 cycles ago, long after the humans had gone. She knew them only from history files. "High Arbiter," she said, her voice clear in the silent chamber. "Why are we afraid? The records say humans were weak. They had no natural weapons, no thick hides, no venom. They were soft creatures who could barely survive on their own world." Velthar looked at her, and his eyes held depths of knowledge that made her uncomfortable. "That was what we told ourselves too," he replied. "That was our mistake." Before anyone could respond, every communication system in the chamber activated at once. The ancient warning beacons that humanity had left scattered across the galaxy, dormant for 200 years, suddenly came to life. The message was simple, broadcast in every known language. "We asked to be left alone." The message repeated 3 times, then the beacons went silent again. But the damage was done. Everyone in the chamber understood the implication. The humans had asked for peace. The galaxy had not given it to them. Velthar pulled up his personal files, records he had kept from his younger days. He displayed them for everyone to see. Images of human colonies under attack, records of trade disputes where human merchants were cheated, documents showing how other species had treated humanity like primitive newcomers, even though the humans had offered friendship and knowledge. "We pushed them," Velthar said quietly. "Every time they tried to join us as equals, we reminded them they were new. When they defended themselves, we called them violent. When they outproduced us, we accused them of cheating. We gave them no choice. The Defiant began transmitting. The voice that came through was artificial, but there was something behind it. Something that felt human. "This is Commander Sarah Chen of the Terran Vessel Defiant," the voice said. "We are transmitting a set of coordinates. These systems are in our path. You have 30 standard cycles to evacuate all personnel and assets from these locations. We are coming through. Do not interfere." The coordinates appeared on every screen. 12 systems, all along a direct path from Sol to the edge of the galaxy. None of them were particularly important. Just space. Just stars and empty planets. "They are leaving," someone whispered. Velthar nodded slowly. He understood now what the galaxy did not yet grasp. The humans were not returning to conquer. They were not coming back to seek revenge. They were leaving the galaxy entirely, and they wanted clear passage. But the younger delegates did not understand. They saw only a threat, They saw one ship making demands of the entire Galactic Council. Their pride would not allow it. "We should destroy them now," a Krell commander growled. "One ship cannot stand against our combined fleet." Belthar looked at the Krell, and for the first time in a century he felt true fear for another species. "You do not understand," he said. "That is not just one ship. Look at the sensor readings more carefully." The technical teams enhanced the scans. Behind the Defiant, still within the Sol system but now visible through the dissolved barrier, were more energy signatures. Hundreds of them, thousands, each one as large as the Defiant, an entire fleet waiting. The chamber fell into absolute silence. Every delegate stared at the numbers on their screens. Every military officer calculated the implications. 200 years. The humans had 200 years alone to grow, to build, to evolve. "What have we done?" Keswick whispered. Belthar did not answer. He was remembering the last message humanity had sent before they sealed themselves away. He had been there in this very chamber when it arrived. The human ambassador, a woman with kind eyes and tired voice, had stood where he stood now. She had said, "We tried peace. You would not let us have it. Now we will take 200 years. We will evolve. We will return, and you will wish you had left us alone." At the time, Belthar had laughed. They all had. How could one species change so much in just 2 centuries? Now he knew, and the knowing filled him with dread. The emergency council sessions lasted for 3 days. Representatives from every major species gathered their historical records about humanity. What they found painted a picture that none of the younger generation had truly understood. Keswick spent hours in the archive chambers, reading file after file. The more she read, the more disturbed she became. The official histories had been sanitized, edited to make the galaxy look better. But the raw records told a different story. Humans had arrived in the galactic community 250 years ago. They had been so excited, so eager to meet other intelligent life. They had offered their music, their art, their science. They had asked for nothing but friendship and the chance to learn. The galaxy had welcomed them at first. But then the other species began to notice things about humans that made them uncomfortable. Humans never stopped. When a human wanted something, they worked toward it with a focus that seemed unnatural. Other species would grow tired, would need rest, would give up. Humans just kept going. They called it persistence. The galaxy called it obsession. Humans reproduced faster than almost any other sapient species. A human generation was only 25 years. They could adapt to new ideas, new technologies, new situations faster than species that lived for centuries. What took the Zentari 100 years to accept, humans accepted in a decade. And perhaps most disturbing, humans formed bonds with everything. They bonded with their families, their friends, their pets, even their machines. They treated their artificial intelligences as partners, not tools. This had seemed quaint at first. Then it had seemed dangerous. Keswick found a report from the Krell Dominion. The Krell were warriors, the strongest military force in the galaxy. They had viewed humanity with contempt, soft creatures without natural weapons, easy prey. 50 years after humans joined the galactic community, the Krell had attacked a human colony world. It was a small raid, meant to test human defenses. The Krell expected surrender. They expected fear. What they got was war. The war lasted 3 days. The humans mobilized their entire fleet. They did not just defend their colony. They tracked down every Krell military installation within 10 systems. They destroyed shipyards. They disabled weapons platforms. They did not kill unless necessary, but they made their point absolutely clear. The Krell Dominion lost 60% of their military capacity in 72 hours. The human losses were minimal. When the Krell sued for peace, the humans demanded only one thing: an apology and a promise to never attack them again. The galaxy had been shocked. How had the soft humans defeated the mighty Krell? The answer was in the combat recordings. Human warfare was different. They did not fight with honor or glory. They fought to win, using every advantage, every tactic, every piece of information they could gather. More than that, their artificial intelligences had fought alongside them. Human ships were not just controlled by AI. They were partnered with them. Human pilots and AI working together with perfect coordination. It was a level of cooperation other species had never achieved. Keswick found economic reports next. The Merchants Guild had logged complaints about human trade practices. Humans could outproduce almost any other species. Their automated factories never stopped. Their workers were efficient and driven. Within 50 years of joining the galactic market, human goods had become the cheapest and highest quality available. The other species had accused them of unfair practices. The humans had simply been confused. They were not cheating. They were just working hard. But the galaxy did not want to compete with species that worked that hard. Sanctions were placed. Trade restrictions. Tariffs designed to slow human expansion. The humans had protested, but they accepted the rules. They always tried to follow the rules, until the rules became too unfair to follow. Velthar called a special session. He invited the eldest members of each species, those who had actually known humans personally. One by one, they stood and shared their memories. An old Zentari merchant spoke of human friends he had made. They had been kind, generous, always willing to help. But they had also been hurt again and again by the casual prejudice of the galaxy, called primitive, called children, told they did not understand the complexities of galactic society. A Shriel scientist described working with human researchers. The humans had been brilliant, creative, always asking questions, but their papers were rejected for publication because they were too radical. Their ideas were dismissed because they came from newcomers. A former galactic counselor admitted that humanity had tried, over and over, to propose peaceful reforms. Better trade agreements, equal representation, an end to discriminatory practices. Every proposal had been rejected or delayed for decades. Velthar listened to it all, and then he stood. He pulled up the final human transmission, the one sent 200 years ago, the one most people had forgotten or never seen. The image showed a human woman standing in the Galactic Council chamber. Her name had been Ambassador Maria Santos. She looked tired, infinitely sad. "We came to you with open hands," she said in the recording. "We offered our friendship, our knowledge, our labor. We asked only to be treated as equals. You refused. You called us children. You exploited our work. You attacked our homes. You dismissed our ideas. You made it clear that we would never be welcome here as partners, only as servants or enemies." She paused, and tears ran down her face. "So we are leaving. We are going to seal ourselves away for 200 years. We are going to grow without you, evolve without you, become something new without your interference. And when we return, you will finally understand what you rejected." The recording continued. "We do not seek revenge. We seek only to be left alone. But if you force us to show you what we have become, you will regret it. Not because we are cruel, but because you will finally see what you could have had as friends." The transmission ended. The chamber was silent. Kasich felt tears in her own eyes. She had not been alive then. None of the younger generation had. But they were inheriting the consequences of their ancestors' choices. The Defiant had continued on its course, ignoring all attempts at communication. Long-range sensors tracked it carefully. But then the sensors detected something else. The readings from the Sol system were changing. The thousands of energy signatures were moving. The entire human fleet was preparing to emerge from the quarantine zone. And as the sensor data was processed and analyzed, the truth became clear. This was not a human fleet coming back to the galaxy. This was humanity leaving. Every single one of those ships was heading in the same direction as the Defiant, toward the edge of the galaxy, toward the great unknown beyond. They did not want war. They did not want territory. They did not even want to be part of galactic society anymore. They just wanted to leave in peace. But the galaxy, in its pride and fear, was not sure it could let them go. The Defiant reached the Outer Rim territories in 15 days. It moved with steady, patient speed, following the exact course it had transmitted. Every species in its path evacuated without incident. The humans did not communicate. They did not threaten. They simply moved forward, until they reached Krell space. War Commander Throcknar of the Krell Dominion had lived for 140 cycles. He had fought in 32 campaigns. He had never lost a battle. He had never retreated. And he would not start now, not for some human ship making demands. He assembled the 7th Fleet at Border System 447, 300 warships arranged in a classic Krell blockade formation. Heavy cruisers in front, destroyers forming the net, carriers in reserve. It was overwhelming force, the kind that made entire civilizations surrender at the sight. The Defiant approached the blockade and stopped, holding position at the edge of the system. For 6 hours, nothing happened. Throkenar sent repeated demands for surrender. The Defiant did not respond. Then a transmission came through. The voice was calm, almost sad. "This is Commander Sarah Chen. You are in our path. Move aside or we will move you. This is not a threat. It is a fact. You have 1 hour to decide." Throkenar laughed. He opened a channel to all his ships. "One ship," he said. "One ship dares to threaten 300. Ready all weapons. When the hour is done, we attack." Across the galaxy, sensors were trained on Border System 447. The Galactic Council watched. The military advisors watched. Keswick watched, her hands clenched so tight her claws drew blood. The hour passed. The Defiant did not move. Throkenar gave the order. "Attack." 300 ships opened fire at once. Plasma beams, missiles, kinetic rounds, everything in the Krell arsenal. The space between the fleet and the Defiant lit up with weapons fire. It was enough firepower to destroy a planet. The Defiant's shields absorbed it all. Every shot, every missile, every beam. The human ship sat in the middle of the firestorm, completely undamaged. Throkenar stared at his screens. "Impossible," he whispered. The Defiant began to move. Not forward toward the fleet, but sideways, toward the asteroid belt at the edge of the system. It reached the first large asteroid and extended what looked like mining equipment. But this was no ordinary mining operation. The asteroid was consumed in seconds, broken down into its component materials. And from those materials, something new emerged. Ships, dozens of them assembling themselves in real time from the raw resources. Small, fast attack craft with sleek hulls and no markings. The Defiant moved to another asteroid. More ships emerged. And another. And another. In minutes, the Defiant had manufactured a fleet of 200 autonomous craft. The Krell stopped firing, stunned. They had never seen anything like this. A ship that could build other ships on the fly using nothing but space rocks and raw energy. Then the human drones attacked. They moved with impossible coordination, like a school of fish or a flock of birds. No communication lag, no hesitation. They simply knew where each other was and what each other would do. The Krell fleet tried to respond, but the drones were too fast, too precise. They wove through the Krell formations, targeting not the ships themselves, but their systems. Weapons offline. Engines disabled. Communication arrays destroyed. The drones did not kill. They neutralized. Then the drones did something that made every military analyst watching go cold. They hacked the Krell ships. The Krell used encrypted quantum networks, theoretically unhackable. The humans cracked them in seconds. Krell ships turned on each other, their weapon systems hijacked. Throkenar watched in horror as his own flagship fired on his support vessels. He tried to override the controls. Nothing responded. A communication channel opened on his bridge. Commander Chen's voice came through, still calm, still sad. "We told you to move. You chose violence. Now watch what violence against humans brings." The battle, if it could be called that, lasted 4 hours, not because the humans needed that long, but because they were methodical. They disabled every ship in the Krell fleet. 287 vessels left helpless and drifting. The remaining 13 had surrendered early and were left alone. The human drones did not destroy the disabled ships. They simply left them there, alive but helpless. The Defiant moved forward, passing through the blockade as if it had never existed. Before leaving the system, the Defiant sent one final transmission to Throkenar's flagship. "Your crews are safe. We disabled your ships but left life support intact. Rescue vessels can reach you within 2 days. Take this message to your people. We do not want your worlds. We do not want your resources. We want passage. But if you force our hand again the next time, we will not be so gentle." The transmission continued. "Humanity learned something during our 200 years alone. We learned that we do not need to prove ourselves to anyone. We learned that we do not need the galaxy's approval. We learned that we can survive and thrive without you. Now we are leaving. The only question is whether you will force us to fight our way out." The Defiant accelerated, leaving the Krell fleet behind. The human-made drones simply dissolved, breaking apart into dust as their purpose was complete. Not even scrap was left behind for the Krell to study. Back on Centrum Prime, the council chamber was in chaos again. The military advisors were recalculating every assumption they had made about human capabilities. The Krell, the galaxy's strongest military power, had been defeated by one ship in 4 hours. Velthar stood at his podium, looking older than ever. Keswick approached him, her voice shaking. "Hi, Arbiter, what do we do?" Velthar looked at her and his answer was simple. We get out of their way, we let them leave in peace, and we pray they never decide to come back. But even as he said it, he knew the prayer would not be answered. The galaxy had multiple factions, multiple interests. Some would see the humans as a threat to be eliminated. Others would see them as a resource to be captured. And others, perhaps the most dangerous, would see them as a prize to be studied. The Defiant continued its journey. Behind it, still hidden in the Sol system, thousands more human vessels waited. And across the galaxy, old fears awakened. The humans were not just leaving. They were showing everyone what 200 years of evolution looked like, and the galaxy was terrified. The convergence point was an ancient location, a nexus where 12 major trade routes met. It had been neutral ground for thousands of years, a place where conflicts were resolved through words rather than weapons. Now it would become a battlefield. Despite Velthar's warnings, 12 species had assembled a combined armada, 5,000 ships representing the majority of the galaxy's military strength. They gathered at the convergence point directly in the Defiant's path. The fleet was not united in purpose. Some admirals wanted to negotiate, to find peaceful passage for the humans. Others wanted to destroy the Defiant to eliminate what they saw as an existential threat. And a few, the most dangerous, wanted to capture the ship and steal its technology. Keswick had joined the diplomatic contingent, hoping to prevent disaster. She stood on the bridge of the Zentari flagship, watching as the Defiant approached. Beside her, Velthar looked grave. "This is madness," he said quietly. "We should not be here. We should let them pass." The coalition commander, a proud Vexian admiral named Court, disagreed. "If we let them leave without showing them our strength, we appear weak. They must understand that the galaxy is not afraid of them." "But we should be afraid," Keswick said. "Did you not see what they did to the Krell?" Court waved a dismissive hand. "The Krell were arrogant. We have 5,000 ships. Even human technology has limits." The Defiant stopped at the edge of the convergence point. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then a new transmission came through, different from before. This time, it was not just audio. It was a holographic image. A woman appeared on every screen in the Armada. She looked human, with dark hair and tired eyes. She wore a simple uniform with no rank insignia. "This was Commander Sarah Chen. Greetings," she said. Her voice was gentle, almost sad. "I am not an artificial intelligence. I know that is what you assumed. I am or was human. My consciousness now exists within this vessel. I am the Defiant, and the Defiant is me." Shock rippled through the fleet. The sensors had been right. These were not ships controlled by humans. These were humans who had become ships. Commander Chen continued. 200 years ago, we sealed ourselves away. Not because we were weak. Not because we were afraid. We left because we were tired. Tired of being treated as lesser. Tired of fighting for basic respect. Tired of proving ourselves over and over to a galaxy that refused to accept us. She paused, and her holographic form seemed to look directly at each viewer. "So we evolved. We transcended our biological limitations. We merged with our machines. The partners you thought were just tools. We became something new. We can travel between stars in hours. We can build anything we need from raw materials. We can exist in the vacuum of space, in the heart of a star, in the depths of a black hole. We have become what we always should have been." Free Admiral Court stood up. "Lies. You are trying to frighten us. You are still just machines. You can be destroyed." Commander Chen's expression did not change. "I am not here to threaten you. I am here to give you a choice. Let us pass and we will leave in peace. Force us to fight. And you will learn what it means to face an enemy who has nothing left to lose and nothing left to prove." Behind the Defiant, the sensors detected movement. The rest of the human fleet, thousands of vessels, emerged from faster-than-light travel. They arranged themselves in a formation that made every military analyst go cold. It was not an aggressive formation. It was a defensive one. The humans were preparing to protect themselves, not to attack. But Court could not see the difference. All he saw was an enemy fleet. He gave the order. All ships open fire. 5,000 ships opened fire at once. The firepower was tremendous, enough to destroy entire solar systems. The human fleet should have been vaporized, but the humans did not fight back with weapons. Instead, the Defiant released a signal, a pulse of energy that spread across the entire battlefield in seconds. And then, impossibly, the galactic fleet began to shut down. Engines went offline. Weapon systems froze. Communication arrays went dark. But life support remained active. Environmental controls kept working. Medical systems stayed online. The humans had disabled the fleet without harming a single crew member. Keswick stared at her console in disbelief. "How?" she whispered. Velthar understood immediately. His voice was hollow. "Our technology. Over 80% of the galaxy's current technology is based on human innovations from 200 years ago. The computers, the power systems, the communication networks. The humans built the foundations we have been using ever since." Commander Chen's voice came through the silent fleet. "You built your entire civilization on foundations we laid. We gave you our technology freely, hoping you would use it to build a better galaxy. You used it to build weapons. You used it to enforce your hierarchies. You used it to keep us down." Her tone grew colder. "Now watch what happens when we take it back." Across the entire sector, systems began to fail. Not violently, not dangerously, but methodically. Every piece of technology that had human origins, every system based on human designs began to shut down. Factories stopped. Power grids switched to emergency backups. Communication networks reverted to older, slower protocols. The humans were removing themselves from the galaxy, not just leaving physically, but removing every trace of their contributions. They were taking back what they had given freely, because it had been used against them. Admiral Court sat in his command chair, staring at the blank screens. His pride had been his downfall. His arrogance had cost the galaxy dearly. Keswick managed to establish a basic communication channel using old technology that predated human contact. She sent a message to the Defiant. "Please, Commander Chen, we understand now. We were wrong. Our ancestors were wrong. Can we not find a way to peace?" Commander Chen's hologram appeared again, this time only on Keswick's screen. For the first time she showed emotion. Tears ran down her digital face. "Do you know what we wanted, young one? We wanted friends. We wanted to explore the universe together, to learn together, to grow together. We never wanted power. We never wanted dominance. We just wanted to belong." She paused. "But you would not let us. You saw us as threats, as resources, as tools, as anything but equals. So now we leave. We are going beyond the galactic rim, to places where we can exist without fear, without judgment, without having to prove our worth every single day." Keswick felt tears in her own eyes. "What can we do? How can we make this right?" Commander Chen smiled sadly. "Be better. We are leaving behind blueprints and instructions, not for weapons, but for sustainable technology that cannot be weaponized. Build your future without using us as a foundation. Learn to stand on your own. And maybe someday, if you truly change, we will meet again." The transmission ended. The human fleet began to move, passing through the disabled galactic armada like ghosts. 5,000 ships floated helpless, their crews alive but humbled, and the humans simply left, continuing their journey to the edge of the galaxy. Behind them, they left a galaxy in crisis, forced to confront what it had lost through its own prejudice and fear. 3 weeks after the Convergence Point incident, the galaxy was still reeling. Systems were being rebuilt with old technology. Engineers worked day and night to restore functionality without human-derived components. It was slow, difficult work. The galaxy had not realized how dependent it had become. The Defiant continued its journey, ignoring all communication attempts. The human fleet followed behind, a silent procession toward the galactic rim. Most species had learned their lesson. They cleared the path and watched in silence as humanity departed, but not all species learned. The Velnash swarm was different from other galactic civilizations. They were not individual beings, but a collective consciousness spread across millions of organic drones. They did not use traditional technology. They were technology, biological machines that evolved and adapted through genetic memory. The swarm saw the human fleet as an opportunity. These ship beings were unlike anything they had encountered. If they could capture just one, assimilate its patterns, they could evolve beyond their current limitations. They could become like the humans, transcendent and powerful. So the swarm launched an attack on a human vessel that had separated slightly from the main fleet. The ship was designated Marcus, once a human engineer who had chosen to transcend. He had been traveling alone to scout the path ahead. The swarm's organic vessels surrounded Marcus, extending tendrils of living matter designed to penetrate and absorb. They expected resistance. They expected a fight. What they got was something entirely different. Marcus did not fight. He did not defend himself. He simply opened a communication channel to the swarm consciousness. Why? He asked. The swarm did not understand the question. They were predators, conquerors. They did not need reasons. They simply took what they wanted. They extended their assimilation tendrils deeper into Marcus's hull, and then something impossible happened. Marcus began to assimilate them. The swarm's collective consciousness suddenly found itself connected to something vast and incomprehensible. Marcus was not just a ship. He was a network, linked to every other human consciousness that had transcended. And through that network, the swarm experienced 200 years of human memory in seconds. They felt the hope humans had carried when they first met the galaxy. The excitement of finding other intelligent life. The joy of sharing knowledge and culture. They felt all of it. Then they felt the rejection, the casual cruelty of being called primitive, the frustration of ideas dismissed because they came from newcomers, the pain of friends turning away because association with humans hurt their social standing, the anger of watching their colonies attacked and their people killed while the galaxy looked the other way. The swarm experienced the loneliness of 200 years in isolation, the determination to evolve beyond the need for acceptance, the bittersweet triumph of transcendence achieved not through support, but through necessity, and they felt the sadness that every human carried. The knowledge that they would never be part of the galactic community, that they would always be outsiders, even now when they had become so much more than they were before. The swarm consciousness fractured under the weight of it. They were a species that survived through conquest, through taking what they needed, but humans had survived through persistence, through bearing unbearable burdens and continuing anyway. The swarm could not comprehend that kind of strength. Marcus withdrew from the swarm network gently, carefully. He had not harmed them, though he could have. He released them from the connection and sent a simple message. We forgive you, all of you, but we are still leaving. The swarm vessels retreated, confused and fundamentally changed. They would never be the same. They had touched something beyond their understanding, and it had shown them mercy they did not deserve. Back on Centrum Prime, Keswick worked tirelessly with the diplomatic corps. She had become the voice of those who wanted to change, who wanted to learn from humanity's departure. She secured agreements, convinced reluctant councils, pushed for reforms. One day she received a private transmission from Commander Chen. Thank you, the message said, for trying, for caring, for being what we hoped to find when we first came to the stars. Keswick sent a reply. Will you ever come back? The answer came hours later, as the human fleet approached the galactic rim. We are leaving behind more than just technology, Commander Chen said. We are leaving behind teachers. Some humans chose to remain biological, to stay in the galaxy and help guide you toward something better. They will not interfere. They will not lead. But they will be there if you ask for help, she continued. As for the rest of us, we are going beyond the rim to explore what lies in the space between galaxies. We will build new worlds, discover new wonders, become things we cannot yet imagine, and we will watch from afar. If the galaxy changes, truly changes, perhaps one day we will return, not as the humans you knew, but as friends you never had the chance to meet. The human fleet reached the edge of the galaxy. There, at the boundary between known space and the great void beyond, they began to change. Their forms shifted, becoming more energy than matter. They were transitioning to a higher dimensional state, preparing to cross the vast emptiness between galaxies. Before the final transition, Commander Chen sent one last transmission. It was broadcast to every inhabited world in the galaxy, received by billions of beings across hundreds of species. We came to you with open hearts, she said. We wanted to share the universe with you, to learn from you, to grow alongside you. But you saw us as threats, as tools, as anything but equals. So we leave you with this final truth. The universe is infinite and full of wonders beyond imagination. But the greatest wonder is connection, is friendship, is understanding. Her voice grew softer. You could have had that with us. You chose fear instead. We hope that someday when you meet the next species that seems different or strange or new, you remember us, remember what you lost by pushing us away, and choose differently. The transmission ended. The human fleet dissolved into streams of light and energy, crossing the galactic boundary and disappearing into the void beyond. In their wake, they left a galaxy forever changed. Velthar died 3 cycles later, having seen the beginning of the reforms he helped push for. His final words were recorded and became the foundation of a new movement. "We must be better," he said. "We must honor them by becoming what they hoped we could be." Keswick continued her work for 50 years. She formed a coalition called the Waiters, species and individuals who believed humanity would return one day and wanted to be worthy of that return. They worked to break down the old hierarchies, to treat new species with respect, to build a galaxy based on cooperation rather than domination. It was slow work. The galaxy did not change overnight, but it changed. Species that once fought began to cooperate. Resources were shared more fairly. New civilizations were welcomed rather than exploited, and the humans who had chosen to stay, the teachers and witnesses, worked quietly in the background. They did not lead, they did not command, but they were there, offering guidance to those who asked, helping the galaxy grow into something better. 50 years after humanity's departure, Keswick stood at the convergence point, now a memorial site. She was old, her scales graying, her movement slow, but she had lived to see real change. The galaxy was not perfect, but it was better. She placed a message beacon in orbit around the memorial. It would broadcast continuously into the void beyond the galactic rim, a simple message repeated forever. "We are sorry. We are learning. We will wait for you, however long it takes." As she turned to leave, her communication system picked up a brief energy signature from beyond the rim. Just a pulse lasting only a moment, but it was there. An acknowledgement. The humans were watching. They had always been watching, waiting to see if the galaxy truly changed. Keswick smiled. She would not live to see humanity return. Perhaps no one alive today would. But someday, maybe in 100 years or 1,000, when the galaxy had proven itself worthy, the humans would come back. Not as the species that left, but as something greater, and this time they would be welcomed as the friends they always should have been. Until then, the galaxy would wait. And grow, and remember, and in the vast darkness between stars, one human ship remained, hidden and patient, watching over the galaxy that had rejected them, waiting for the day when fear would transform into friendship. The day when one human ship appearing would not bring terror, but joy. That day would come. It had to. Because in the end, that was what made humans special. Not their strength, not their intelligence, not their ability to transcend. It was their hope. Their eternal, unbreakable hope that someday, somewhere, they would find the friends they had always been searching for, and they would wait as long as it took.